I love indie games. Considering how much I talked about them in my last video, that shouldn't really be much of a surprise. In fact, I think that these titles are currently going through a bit of a renaissance period right now, with a lot of indie titles receiving a lot of new attention, which is great. It means more people will be able to play these incredibly good and quality video games instead of the same rehashed slop from last year. However, there's a weird phenomenon going on where these large indie titles are going completely mainstream. This is a new thing. It hasn't really happened in the past, but it places these titles in a sort of weird situation. Today I wanted to talk about these titles and how going mainstream can be both a really good thing and a really bad thing for these indie devs.
I'm really sorry, okay?
What is wrong with you? Why are you...
A lot of these titles end up going mainstream because of just the sheer quality behind the title. I think a perfect example of this is Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is probably one of the most well-known indie games just because of how much quality was put behind the project. Team Cherry really knew what they were doing when creating Hollow Knight, and while it's not my kind of game, I understand why so many people love it. It has a great combat system and an incredible art style that helps complement its dark themes, but also how it can be a little silly at times. The Metroidvania style that Hollow Knight has helps build upon the systems that it already has created for itself, allowing for a cohesive story to be created and also allowing for several different endings to be born from that. Hollow Knight is also kind of known for being incredibly difficult. I mean, it's not like the Elden Ring of Metroidvanias, but it's still a pretty fucking hard game if you ask me. It also does the classic indie game move of being one of the best games ever created, but only costing like $15. Because of all of these different factors, and on top of that, a cheap price, Hollow Knight has garnered an incredibly large fan base of die-hard fans that defend the company to death, which is a great thing until they announce Silksong. I mean, it's a meme at this point that Silksong is never going to come out, despite Team Cherry confirming it for 2024. But we're getting pretty close to the end of this year and we haven't heard anything, so you never know. It also leads to a fan base that is pretentious about this game because they knew about it before it blew up. That's in every fan base for indie titles though, so I figured I should mention it here, but it also applies to every other title mentioned in this video. Hello everyone, post-production Ping here. I would like to apologize for the TARKOV footage being only on factory and being very low frame rate. Single-player TARKOV does not run well, and I refuse to play normal TARKOV, so that's the explanation. Certain games go viral because they're sort of a one-of-a-kind. The best example I can think of in this case is Escape from Tarkov. Tarkov is truly a one-of-a-kind extraction shooter that is extremely hardcore and incredibly realistic, and that's the draw. Other games have tried to emulate this feel, but haven't gotten it correct. No game can do Tarkov better than Tarkov. The benefits of this are there will always be players flocking towards Tarkov and not distributed across a bunch of different extraction shooters, because there's nothing like Tarkov. The only game that's similar is Dark and Darker, but that's medieval, so it doesn't really count. However, because of this, the Tarkov developers have a monopoly on this genre. This leads to pretty shitty financial decisions that do not benefit the consumer whatsoever. The most known of which being the Unheard edition, a $250 edition of Escape from Tarkov that adds like nothing and a PvE mode that was promised for free for people who owned the Edge of Darkness edition. Promises were broken, but they did eventually go back on that decision, and then they allowed people to purchase it for $20, no matter the edition. Another downside is Tarkov is always going to have eyes on it. It's always going to be in the spotlight for when it fucks up or does something stupid, which while does attract new people to the game, it also means that every single meticulous detail about Tarkov is examined by everyone that likes extraction shooters, since it's the only one that offers such a hardcore experience. Some games tend to go viral due to simplicity. The most recent example of this is 100% Lethal Company. Lethal Company is a very simple game. All you do is collect trash and meet a quota. It's very simple at the end of the day. You can buy items to make getting that trash easier, but once you can't meet the quota, it's game over. These games are incredibly simple and typically only get big because of a large creator playing them with a group of people. Lethal Company is no exception. Despite it being a pretty quality title, other than it being a little bit buggy, but I feel like that's part of the charm, at the end of the day it was a streamer bait game. And it definitely worked out for the developer ZucchiniZ, considering he went to a furry developing Roblox games to a straight up millionaire. When a game like this blows up, it's great for the developer, especially in the case of Lethal Company. ZucchiniZ is one dude, and because of Lethal Company, he created literal generational wealth from this shitpost game. However, these games typically don't last very long. Right now, according to Steam charts, Lethal Company is averaging around 19,000 players. Granted, I am recording this at 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday. These aren't bad numbers, don't get me wrong, but compared to the boom of 239,000 players at an all-time peak, and the fact that an update just came out recently, these numbers aren't the best, and chances are it's not many new players coming in, and it's more older veterans going back to it. At the end of the day, this doesn't really matter though, considering ZucchiniZ is now a millionaire. Can you tell that I'm extremely jealous?
Let me die in peace.
When a game goes mainstream, it's typically to the benefit of the developer. Sometimes it leads to greed, but in most cases it leads to indie developers getting the much needed attention that these incredibly well-crafted projects deserved, especially in the case of the single-man indie studios like the aforementioned ZucchiniZ, but there's plenty of other examples. I hope this video was able to explain why this phenomenon keeps happening, and why it's, in most cases, a good thing. Unfortunately, some titles are giving indie games a bad rap due to either annoying communities or gross developers. However, that's a topic for a different video. A video that probably won't come out because my uploading schedule is as consistent as a uncleaned firearm. That is to say, not. Despite this, I do want to thank you all for the support on the last video. That did significantly better than I expected it to, which is lovely because, I mean, I put more effort into that than any of the other videos that I made, so I was surprised to see that number go above 100 into like 500. That was crazy to me. If you want to, you can subscribe, but I'm not going to force you to. But other than that, I guess I'll see you in the next one, maybe? We'll see. Bye-bye.